So this morning I want to take another look at a more modern school of thought and how it has once again reinterpreted or borrowed from the Buddhist teachings. And this is the modern psychology concept of emotional intelligence. You may have heard that term, it's been around a while. But once again, it's affirming what the Buddha taught. And there's a vast literature on emotional intelligence that's developed over the last 20 or 25 years. And again, I don't think they went to the Dharma to sort of figure all this out, but it just shows how far-reaching his teachings were and how they keep being rediscovered. And emotional intelligence is defined as the ability to recognize, understand, and managing our own emotions while empathizing with the emotions of others. And that probably has a pretty familiar ring. So it's seen as pivotal in fostering interpersonal relationships and achieving well-being. And when we examine it through a Buddhist lens, it really aligns closely with the principles of mindful self-awareness, compassion, and equanimity. And it, as does the Dharma, offers profound insights into how we can cultivate a deeper understanding of our own emotions and enhance our overall emotional well-being. At the heart of emotional intelligence, as is true with the Dharma, is self-awareness. And that's a familiar concept to most of us on this path, the ability to perceive our own emotions as they occur. And as you know, the Dharma emphasizes mindful awareness of self, of surroundings, and of our interactions with others. It is a practice, the practice of the Dharma encourages us to be fully present in each moment, to acknowledge our thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment, and without judgment being the operative phrase there. So not just acknowledging them, but acknowledge them without judging them, because that's our tendency. And this aligns seamlessly with the self-awareness component of emotional intelligence, as mindfulness cultivates this heightened awareness of our emotional states. And we're going to look at that more closely on Saturday, specifically awareness of our emotional states. But for today, through mindful regular practice, we develop the ability to observe our emotions really with a little bit of distance, rather than just being caught up and swept away from them. I mean, typically without this practice, the tendency for most of us would be just caught up and swept away in what we call reactivity. But this heightened awareness allows for a greater understanding of the transient nature of our emotions, of their impermanent nature, that they come and go, they arise and fall. And through both of these practices, or they're similar practices really, we reduce our impulsive reactions, which we do call reactivity, and we foster a more balanced emotional state. We do this in part by focusing on our breath, on our bodily sensations during formal meditation. We gently bring our attention back to the breath whenever it wanders. We do this without judgment. We do this without any kind of self-criticism. And this practice, our formal meditation practice, not only enhances our concentration, but it helps build emotional resilience because we welcome whatever arises without judgment. The term emotional resilience, which you've heard me use, is often used interchangeably with the term emotional intelligence. You'll hear them used interchangeably when psychologists talk about either of these practices. And as we become more attuned to our inner experiences, we learn to identify those subtle shifts in emotions. We don't just sort of lump everything into broad categories. We learn to see the sort of nuances of our emotions. And what that does, and this is really one of the wonderful benefits of our practice, is it enables us to respond to situations more thoughtfully, more clearly, without just blanket reactivity. And of course, this whole approach aligns with our teaching of right mindfulness, one of the Eightfold Path. Right mindfulness emphasizes the importance of being aware of our mental and emotional states in order to loosen the grip of suffering. Now, another critical component of emotional intelligence is empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. Again, something the Buddha talked about, something we talk about here all the time. And as you know, Buddhism places great importance on compassion as a means to alleviate the suffering of all beings. And compassion in Buddhism, though, extends beyond just simple empathy. It involves an active desire. Empathy is just feeling, feeling compassion for you. But in Buddhism, it goes to active desire to help others and to actually relieve their suffering if we can. And this compassionate mindset fosters a deep connection with others. It's part of what really connects us. And it encourages us to listen actively to others, to respond with empathy to the emotions and needs of those around us. So by incorporating compassion into emotional intelligence, we recognize the interconnectedness of all beings, a fundamental Buddhist concept. By understanding that everyone experiences suffering and everyone experiences joy, we developed a more profound sense of empathy and appreciation for our shared humanity, for our shared human experience. This perspective encourages us to transcend self-centeredness and ego-based concerns. Okay, so we're always trying to battle between the ego and self-interest and connection and empathy and compassion for others. And by doing this, we foster a sense of unity and interconnectedness that enhances and deepens our interpersonal relationships. So a part of all of this is greater emotional regulation, the ability to manage and control our emotional responses. It's another crucial aspect of emotional intelligence. And if you look around these days at how rare that is, with everybody just flying off the handle, reacting with anger, reacting with judgment, boy, can we use a greater amount of emotional regulation. And that's really one of the things that our practice offers us that aligns with emotional intelligence. In Buddhism, the concept of equanimity, as you know, refers to a state of mental calmness and balance, undisturbed by the prevailing winds, undisturbed by external circumstances. And it involves, it is at its base, the understanding and accepting the impermanent nature of our emotions, the impermanent nature of our experiences, our feelings, our sensations. And when we embrace impermanence, it gives us a grounding. It allows us to maintain a sense of inner peace or groundedness, regardless of the external challenges that might be going on. The Dharma teaches if we cling to positive experiences and push away negative ones, we're going to suffer. But with equanimity, we learn to embrace the full range of emotions, the full spectrum of emotions, without being overwhelmed by them, whether it's great exuberance or great despair. We just learn to go with it. We just learn to sort of ride those out without just, catastrophizing about them and thinking, oh, this is awful, this is never going to change, and so forth. The practice aligns with the that practice of equanimity aligns with the emotional regulation component of emotional intelligence, which really has as its center a balanced response to emotional triggers. Okay, so you see how these things really overlap. And once again, we've rediscovered the brilliance of the Buddhist teachings. But both emotional intelligence and the Dharma recognize that equanimity helps us navigate the ups and downs of life with greater ease and greater resilience. From a Buddhist perspective, the ultimate goal of emotional intelligence is reduced suffering. And the Four Noble Truths, central to the Buddhist teachings, pretty much the foundational teaching, outlines, as you know, the nature of suffering and the path to the cessation of suffering. And by understanding the root causes of suffering, we can develop a deeper awareness of our emotional patterns and learn to break free from the cycle of craving and aversion. I saw someone that said last week, in the midst of all the hubbub about the election, is don't focus on the causes, focus on the root of the causes. Don't get caught in the content. Look at the suffering that is going on beneath the content. The Eightfold Path, which is the fourth of the Four Noble Truths, is that roadmap for ethical and mental development and Buddhism. But another way we could talk about the Eightfold Path is as a framework for developing or cultivating emotional intelligence. So the Eightfold Path encompasses principles, as you know, such as right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, all of which contribute to a more balanced and harmonious life. So by aligning our actions and thoughts with these principles and setting an intention to cultivate them, we develop greater emotional awareness, empathy, and equanimity. Emotional intelligence, when viewed through a Buddhist lens, can also be a transformative practice that encompasses mindfulness, compassion, and equanimity. So by cultivating self-awareness, empathy, and emotional regulation, we achieve a deeper understanding of ourselves and others. And what does that do? It brings us greater inner peace. It fosters better relationships. It's really why we walk this path, to have less suffering in our lives. We develop the skills to navigate the complexities of our emotions, and we move closer to that promise of emotional well-being that the Buddha offered. So the integration of the Buddhist principles within this framework of emotional intelligence is really a lot of overlap, a lot of similarities, that both of which offer a holistic approach to personal and interpersonal development. And as I said, it's another example where the synthesis of modern psychology with ancient Buddhism, is tremendous overlap in what I like to call practical Dharma. And it's an approach that I believe together or side by side can enrich our lives and the communities in which we live. So there's sort of a contrast and compare this modern approach again with the ancient wisdom of the Buddha. So let me stop there.